The Empire had watched the stars for 12,000 years. Their sensors covered 300 star systems. Every ship, every shuttle, every piece of floating metal was recorded in their databases. Nothing moved through their space without them knowing about it. That was what Admiral Oran believed. That was what every believed, until today. Oran stood on the observation deck of the Imperial Command Station. His 4 eyes studied the large display screen before him. Something was wrong with what he was seeing. The data made no sense. He had served the Empire for 200 years, and he had never seen anything like this. "Run the scan again," he ordered his lieutenant. Was a young officer with quick fingers. She worked the console and ran the scan 3 more times. Each time, the results were the same. She turned to face her admiral with confusion in her eyes. "Sir, there is something moving through the corridor," she reported, "but I cannot identify it. It does not match any ship in our database." The corridor was one of the busiest trade routes in the Empire. Thousands of ships passed through it every day. They had monitored it for 8,000 years. They knew every type of vessel that used it: cargo ships, merchant cruisers, transport barges. 47 different species used that corridor, and the Empire had records of all their ships. But this thing was different. Oran walked closer to the screen. The object appeared as a dark spot, almost like a shadow. It was maybe 200 meters long. It had an angular shape with sharp edges, but what bothered the Admiral most was how it moved. "What is its speed?" he asked. "It is traveling at approximately 300,000 kilometers per hour, sir." "And its propulsion signature?" Was quiet for a moment. She checked her readings again. "There is no propulsion signature, Admiral." Oran turned to look at her. "That is impossible. Everything that moves has a propulsion signature. Engines create heat. Thrusters leave energy trails. Even the most primitive ships produce some kind of wake." "I understand, sir, but our instruments detect nothing. No heat, no energy wake, no thrust output. The object is simply moving." The Admiral looked back at the screen. The dark shape continued its journey through the corridor. It did not speed up. It did not slow down. It did not change direction. It just glided through the void like a fish swimming through dark water. "Could it be a natural object?" Oran asked. "An asteroid, perhaps?" "No, sir. The shape is too regular, too precise. This was built by someone." Another officer spoke up from across the room. His name was, and he handled communications. "Admiral, I have been trying to contact the object on all standard frequencies. There is no response. I have also tried the emergency channels that all species are required to monitor. Still nothing." Oran felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. In 12,000 years, the Empire had encountered many strange things: new species, unusual phenomena, ancient ruins from civilizations long dead. But they had always been able to understand what they were looking at. They had always been able to explain it. This thing explained nothing. "Increase the sensor power," he ordered. "I want every scanner in this sector focused on that object." The crew worked quickly. Within minutes, they had directed dozens of scanning stations toward the unknown vessel. The combined power of their instruments was enough to detect a single piece of metal floating 1,000,000 kilometers away. But when they looked at the mysterious ship, they saw almost nothing. "Sir," said slowly, "the object is not reflecting our sensor beams. It is absorbing them." "Absorbing them?" "Yes, Admiral. Our scanners send out energy pulses that bounce off objects and return to us. That is how we see things in space. But this object takes our pulses and does not send them back. We can only see it because it blocks the starlight behind it." Oran understood what she was saying. They were not looking at a ship. They were looking at a hole in space, a shadow that moved with purpose. "How is that possible?" he asked, but he did not expect an answer. The object continued moving through the corridor. It passed by 3 patrol ships, and none of them detected it until it was already gone. Their sensors only noticed that something had blocked the stars for a brief moment. By then, the shadow had moved on. Oran made a decision. Contact the High Council. Tell them we have an unidentified vessel in Imperial space. Tell them it uses technology we do not understand. And tell them, he paused, searching for the right words, tell them it moves like a ghost. The message was sent. Within an hour, responses came flooding back. The High Council was alarmed. They wanted more information. They wanted to know if this was a threat. They wanted to know where this ghost ship had come from. Oran had no answers for them. For the next 12 hours, the Imperial fleet tracked the object as best they could. It was difficult because the thing left no trail. Traditional methods of following a ship were useless. They could only watch where it blocked the stars and guess where it would go next. The ghost ship seemed to be heading toward the system itself. This was the heart of the trade corridor, home to 2 billion citizens and the largest commercial hub in the sector. If the unknown vessel meant harm, it was heading toward a very important target. Admiral Oran ordered 20 warships to intercept. They were the finest vessels in the Imperial fleet, armed with weapons that could crack open a moon. Their crews were veterans of 100 conflicts. They feared nothing. But as they took their positions around the system and waited for the ghost to arrive, Oran noticed something unusual. His officers were nervous. These warriors who had faced death many times before were looking at their screens with wide eyes. They spoke in hushed voices. They checked their instruments again and again, hoping that maybe this time the readings would make sense. They did not. The ghost ship entered the system exactly when the computers predicted it would. It slowed down as it approached the outer gas giant. And then, for the first time, it stopped moving altogether. It just hung there in the darkness, waiting. "What is it doing?" asked. No one answered him. No one knew. Admiral Oran stared at the shadow on his screen. In 12,000 years, the Empire had never encountered anything they could not understand. They had built their civilization on knowledge and control. They knew everything that happened in their space. But today, something had appeared that they could not explain. Something that moved without engines. Something that hid from their sensors. Something that glided through their territory like it belonged there. And the Admiral had a terrible feeling that this was only the beginning. 3 days had passed since the ghost ship stopped moving. It remained near the outer gas giant of the system, holding its position with perfect stillness. The fleet surrounded it at a safe distance. 20 warships pointed their weapons at the shadow, ready to fire at the first sign of aggression. But the ghost did nothing. It simply waited. Ambassador Eth arrived on the 4th day. Her diplomatic cruiser, the Whisper of Stars, was not a warship. It carried no heavy weapons. Its purpose was communication, not destruction. Had served the Empire for 2 centuries. She had negotiated peace with 17 different species. She had ended wars with her words alone. The High Council believed that if anyone could solve this mystery, it was her. But as looked at the ghost ship through her viewport, she felt something she had not experienced in a very long time. She felt uncertain. "Open a communication channel," she ordered her crew. "Use all frequencies. Broadcast in every language we know." Her communications officer was a young male named. He had studied languages his entire life and could speak 40 of them fluently. He worked the controls quickly, setting up a broadcast that would reach the mysterious vessel. "Channel open, Ambassador," he said. "I am broadcasting our standard greeting in 243 languages. If they can understand any of them, they will hear us." The greeting was simple. It identified the Empire as a peaceful civilization. It asked the unknown ship to identify itself. It promised safe passage and fair treatment to any traveler in Imperial space. The message repeated every 30 seconds. They waited. 1 hour passed, then 2. The ghost ship gave no response. "Perhaps they cannot hear us," suggested. Their technology seems very different from ours. Maybe their communication systems do not work the same way. Considered this. It was possible, but if the ghost ship could travel through space with no visible engines, surely it had some way of talking to others, unless it did not want to talk. Keep broadcasting, she ordered. Try different methods, light signals, gravitational pulses, anything you can think of. The crew tried everything. They flashed lights at the ghost ship. They sent coded radio bursts. They even tried vibrating the hull of their own vessel to create sound waves that might travel through space. Nothing worked. And then, without any warning, the ghost ship responded. It did not use radio waves. It did not send light signals. Instead, a hologram appeared in the center of the ambassador's bridge. The image just materialized out of thin air, as if someone had painted a picture with light itself. The crew scrambled backward in shock. Several officers drew their weapons, but raised her hand to stop them. She stepped forward to examine the hologram more closely. The figure standing before them was unlike any species in the database. It had 2 arms and 2 legs like many species did, but its skin was soft and smooth, without scales or armor. Hair grew from the top of its head, colored like the red leaves that fell from trees in autumn. It wore a simple gray uniform with a small patch on its shoulder. The patch showed a blue sphere, perhaps a planet. The figure was female, could tell this from small details in its face and body. The female smiled, showing white teeth. "Hello," she said. Her voice was clear and pleasant, and she spoke in perfect, with an accent that suggested she had studied the language carefully. "My name is Commander Lisa Moore. I come from the Earth vessel Quiet Dawn. We are here in peace, and we are sorry if we frightened you." The bridge was silent. Every officer stared at the hologram with wide eyes, took a moment to compose herself before speaking. "How did you learn our language?" she asked. Lisa's smile grew slightly wider. "We have been listening to your communications for some time. We wanted to understand your people before we introduced ourselves. We hope you can forgive us for watching without permission." Felt a chill run through her body, listening for some time. That meant these creatures, these humans, had been in space before. They had observed the Empire without being detected. They had learned the language by studying broadcasts that were never meant for them. "How long have you been watching us?" she asked. "About 30 years, Lisa replied casually. "We first detected your signals when one of our exploration ships passed through this region. We found your civilization fascinating, so we decided to learn more before making contact." 30 years. For 30 years, these humans had been studying the Empire, and they had never noticed. Not once. Their sensors, their patrols, their monitoring stations, all of them had failed to detect even a single human ship. "Your vessel," said, pushing past her shock. "How does it move? We detected no engines, no propulsion of any kind." Lisa nodded as if she had expected this question. "That will take some explaining, Ambassador. Our ships do not work the way yours do. We do not push ourselves through space. We ask space to carry us." "I do not understand." "Gravity," Lisa said. "Everything in the universe pulls on everything else. Stars pull on planets, planets pull on moons. We learned how to control that pulling. Our ships create small gravity fields that move space itself. We do not travel through the universe. The universe flows around us." Turned to look at her science officer. The young female was staring at the hologram with her mouth open. She shook her head slowly. "That is not possible," the science officer whispered. "We studied gravity manipulation thousands of years ago. The energy required would be greater than a star." Lisa heard her. "Your scientists were very close to the answer, but they made one small mistake in their calculations. They assumed that gravity had to be created. We discovered that it only needs to be redirected. The energy is already there, Ambassador. We just learned how to guide it." The implications hit like a physical blow. If the humans were telling the truth, They had achieved something that had abandoned as impossible. They had found a way to move without leaving any trace. They could go anywhere, see anything, and no one would ever know they were there. "Why are you here now?" asked. "After 30 years of watching, why show yourselves today?" Lisa's expression became more serious. "Because we decided it was time. We have learned enough about your people to know that you value honesty and direct communication. Hiding felt wrong. So here we are, Ambassador. No more secrets. No more watching from the shadows. Just two civilizations meeting face to face for the first time." Studied the human's face. She had spent 2 centuries reading the expressions of alien species. She had learned to spot lies and hidden intentions. But this human seemed genuine. Her words matched her face. She appeared to be telling the truth. "What do you want from us?" asked. Lisa smiled again. "Nothing that you do not wish to give. We want to talk, to share knowledge, to learn about your history and your culture. We want to be friends, Ambassador. That is all, just friends." The word hung in the air between them. Friends. It was such a simple concept. But coming from a species that could move like ghosts through imperial space, it carried a weight that could feel pressing down on her shoulders. "I will need to consult with my government," she said carefully. "Of course," Lisa replied. "Take all the time you need. We are not going anywhere. We have waited 30 years for this moment. We can wait a little longer." The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the bridge crew staring at empty air. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then broke the silence. "Ambassador, what do we do now?" Looked out the viewport at the ghost ship. The quiet dawn hung motionless in space, patient and silent. "Now," she said quietly, "we find out what these humans really want." Admiral Iran refused to believe what the humans had told Ambassador. He stood in the war room of the Imperial Command Station, surrounded by the finest military minds in the Empire. Scientists, generals, tactical experts, they had all gathered to study the data that the humans had willingly provided. "This is a trick," Iran said firmly. "No species develops gravity manipulation. It cannot be done. Our ancestors proved this 4,000 years ago." Chief scientist was an old male with gray scales and tired eyes. He had spent his entire life studying physics. He had won the highest honors the Empire could give. And right now, he looked like someone who had just watched everything he believed crumble to dust. "Admiral," said slowly, "I have reviewed the human data 17 times. I have run every test I can think of. The mathematics are correct. Their technology is real." "Impossible." "I thought so too. But their ship is sitting right outside our window, Admiral. It is doing exactly what our ancestors said could not be done." The war room fell silent. On the large display screen, the quiet dawn hung motionless near the gas giant. It had not moved in 2 days. It simply waited while they argued among themselves about whether it could exist. General, the senior military commander, leaned forward in his chair. "Explain it to me again, in simple terms. How does their ship move?" Walked to the display screen and called up a diagram. "Our ships use subspace tunneling. We punch a hole in reality, travel through a shortcut, and emerge at our destination. It requires enormous energy, but it works. We have used this method for 10,000 years." "Yes, yes, we all know this," said impatiently. "The humans took a different path. They do not punch holes. They do not force their way through space. Instead, they bend space around themselves. Their ships create small gravity wells that pull them forward. The universe itself carries them from place to place." "Like a leaf floating down a river," someone muttered. "Exactly like that," agreed. "They call it slipstream navigation. The ship does not push against anything. It does not burn fuel or expel mass. It simply slides through the fabric of reality like a fish swimming through water." Admiral Iran shook his head. "Even if this is true, it should leave some trace. Gravity distortions, space-time ripples, something our sensors can detect." That is the remarkable part, said. Their gravity fields are so precisely controlled that they leave almost no trace at all. The distortions heal themselves almost instantly. By the time our sensors notice anything, the ship has already moved on. Ghosts said quietly. They really do move like ghosts. The implications were obvious to everyone in the room. They had built their entire defense strategy around detecting enemy ships. Their sensor networks could spot a vessel from millions of kilometers away. They could track incoming threats and respond before any danger arrived. This system had protected the Empire for thousands of years. But it was useless against the humans. What about their weapons? Iran demanded. What do we know about their offensive capabilities? Hesitated. The humans have not shared detailed information about their weapons, but based on what we know about their propulsion, we can make some guesses. Guess then. Gravity manipulation works in both directions, Admiral. They can use it to move their ships, yes, but they could also use it to crush objects from a distance, or to tear things apart, or to create gravitational waves that would destroy anything in their path. The war room grew very quiet. How powerful? Asked. If their control is as precise as their navigation suggests, they could collapse a planet into a ball the size of your fist. They could pull a star apart. They could create gravity wells so strong that not even light could escape. Oran felt his heart pounding. Are you telling me these humans could destroy our entire civilization? I am telling you, Admiral, that if they wanted to, we could not stop them. Our weapons, our ships, our stations, none of them could defend against an attack we cannot see coming. Commander Lisa Moore had been communicating with Ambassador regularly over the past 2 days. She had answered every question the ambassador asked. She had shared technical data freely. She had been polite, patient, and helpful. But she had also mentioned something that haunted Iran. She had said that the Quiet Dawn was just a scout ship, one of many. There were more human vessels out there moving through space like phantoms, watching, listening, learning. How many ships do they have? The Admiral asked. We asked, replied. Commander Moore said she was not allowed to share that information. Why not? She said it was not her decision to make. She said her government would discuss such matters only in formal negotiations. Iran slammed his fist on the table. This is unacceptable. We cannot negotiate with a species that holds all the advantages. We need to know what we are dealing with. General stood up slowly. Admiral, I have fought wars against many enemies. I know when a battle can be won and when it cannot. Right now, we have no way to detect human ships until they choose to be seen. We have no way to stop their weapons if they have weapons. We have no way to threaten them or force them to do anything. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that we do exactly what the humans are asking. We talk to them. We learn everything we can, and we hope that their offer of friendship is genuine. The words hung in the air. The mighty empire, rulers of 300 star systems, reduced to hopping that a strange new species did not wish them harm. Oran looked around the room at his officers and scientists. He saw fear in their eyes. He saw confusion. He saw the same uncertainty that had gripped him since the ghost ship first appeared. Contact Ambassador, he ordered finally. Tell her to continue negotiations. Tell her to learn everything she can about these humans, their history, their culture, their intentions, everything. And if their intentions are hostile, someone asked. Oran turned back to the display screen. The quiet dawn floated peacefully in the darkness, reflecting no light, producing no heat, a shadow with a voice. Then we need to know that too, he said, before it is too late. Over the next few days, the humans proved remarkably cooperative. Commander Lisa Moore answered questions for hours at a time. She told them about Earth, a small blue planet in a distant part of the galaxy. She told them about human history, the wars and the peace that followed. She told them about the centuries of research that had led to slipstream technology. But she also made one thing very clear. The humans had not come to conquer. They had not come to exploit. They had come because they were curious, because they wanted to see what was beyond the next star, because they believed that the universe was better with friends than with enemies. Oran wanted to believe her. He truly did. But 12,000 years of imperial history had taught him one lesson above all others. Power corrupted. And absolute power, the power to move unseen and strike without warning, was the most dangerous power of all. The question was not whether the humans could destroy the empire. They clearly could. The question was whether they would choose not to. The High Council demanded proof. They had heard the reports from Ambassador. They had studied the scientific data from Chief Scientist. But words and numbers were not enough. They needed to see human technology with their own eyes. They needed to understand exactly what they were dealing with. Commander Lisa Moore agreed to the demonstration without hesitation. She seemed almost eager to show what her ship could do. This made Admiral Oran nervous. In his experience, those who were quick to display their weapons usually had a reason for intimidation. The demonstration would take place in the system. It was a dead system, nothing but rocks and dust orbiting a dim red star. They used it for weapons testing because there was nothing there worth protecting. If something went wrong, no one would be harmed. Oran commanded the observation fleet personally. 50 ships followed him too, including the best sensor platforms the Empire possessed. If the humans tried any tricks, he intended to catch them. The quiet dawn arrived at the system exactly on time. It emerged from slipstream travel without any warning, simply appearing in space as if it had always been there. One moment the sensors showed empty void. The next moment, there was a ship. Fascinating, muttered from his position at the science station. I was watching for gravitational fluctuations. I detected nothing until the ship was already here. That is the point, Oran replied grimly. They want us to know that we cannot see them coming. Commander Lisa Moore's voice came through the communication system. She sounded calm and professional, as always. Thank you for arranging this demonstration, Admiral. I understand that you have concerns about our capabilities. We hope that what you see today will help answer your questions. What exactly do you intend to show us? Oran asked. The target is the third asteroid in orbit around this star. It is approximately 4 kilometers in diameter. Our sensors show that it is uninhabited and has no special value. Is this correct? Oran checked with his officers. They confirmed that the asteroid was just a dead rock. That is correct, he said. Good. Please ensure that all your ships maintain a safe distance. We recommend at least 100,000 kilometers from the target. The Admiral gave the order. His fleet pulled back until they were watching from what he hoped was a safe position. The quiet dawn moved closer to the asteroid, stopping about 50,000 kilometers away. Beginning demonstration, Lisa announced. Oran watched his sensor displays intently. The human ship remained motionless. For several seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then the readings went crazy. Admiral, we are detecting massive gravitational fluctuations, reported urgently. The space around their ship is bending. The distortions are centered on the asteroid. On the main display, the image of the 4-kilometer rock began to shimmer. It was subtle at first, like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then the shimmer intensified. The asteroid seemed to twist, like a cloth being wrung out by invisible hands. And then it was gone. There was no explosion, no flash of light, no debris field spreading through space. The asteroid simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment there was only empty space. What happened? Oran demanded. Where did it go? We compressed it, Lisa explained calmly. The asteroid is still there, Admiral, but it is now approximately 2 centimeters in diameter. a small ball of superdense matter falling toward the star. His fingers flew across his console. Confirmed. I am detecting an extremely dense object on a trajectory toward the stellar core. Mass readings match the original asteroid. She is telling the truth. The war room fell completely silent. Everyone stared at their displays, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. 4 kilometers of solid rock, crushed into a ball the size of a small fruit. In seconds, with no warning and no visible weapon. How? Someone whispered. Gravity manipulation works in all directions, Lisa said. We can push space to move our ships. We can also pull space to compress matter. The asteroid did not explode because we did not apply force to it. We simply removed the space between its atoms. It collapsed into itself. Admiral Iran found his voice. Could you do that to a planet? There was a brief pause before Lisa answered. Yes. To a star. With enough power and coordination, yes. The admiral felt cold spreading through his body. He had commanded warships for 2 centuries. He had seen weapons that could destroy cities, shatter moons, and crack open asteroid bases. But he had never imagined anything like this. The humans could erase worlds without firing a single shot. Why are you showing us this? He asked. Because we want you to understand our position, Admiral. We could have approached your empire as conquerors. We could have taken your worlds, your resources, your technology. Our ships can go anywhere without being detected. Our weapons can destroy anything you can build. If we wanted to rule this sector, there is nothing you could do to stop us. The honesty of her words was almost more frightening than the demonstration itself. Then why did you not? Oran asked. Because that is not who we are, Lisa replied. Humanity learned long ago that conquest brings only suffering. We fought wars among ourselves for thousands of years. We killed millions of our own people over land and resources and ideas. We came very close to destroying ourselves before we ever left our planet. Her voice grew softer, but no less serious. We developed slipstream technology not because we wanted power over others, but because we wanted to escape our own worst impulses. Moving through space without force, without violence, without leaving scars on the universe. It was a philosophy as much as a technology. I do not understand, Oran admitted. Our ancestors realized something important, Admiral. The universe is vast beyond imagination. There are more stars than grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth, more resources than any species could ever use. Fighting over territory, hoarding wealth, building empires through force, these things are pointless when infinity stretches before you. She paused to let her words sink in. So we made a choice. We chose to explore instead of conquer, to learn instead of destroy, to make friends instead of enemies. The Quiet Dawn is not a warship, Admiral. It is a scout vessel designed to find new wonders and new civilizations. Meeting you is exactly what we hoped for. Oran stared at his display. The space where the asteroid had been was empty now, just void and starlight. You have the power to dominate, he said slowly, but you choose not to use it. Every day, Lisa confirmed. Every single day we choose peace. Not because we are weak, but because we know that strength means nothing without wisdom. A child with a hammer can destroy things. It takes an adult to build them. The Admiral thought about the Empire. 12,000 years of expansion. 300 conquered systems. Dozens of species brought under imperial rule, some willingly and some by force. The Empire had always seen itself as strong, as powerful, as the rightful masters of this sector. But now he wondered if strength and power meant what he had always believed. What do you want from us? He asked finally. The same thing we wanted when we first arrived, Lisa said. Friendship, trade, cultural exchange. We want to learn about your history and share ours. We want to see the art your people have created and hear the music you have composed. We want to know what your philosophers think about the meaning of existence and what your scientists have discovered about the nature of reality. She laughed softly. Admiral, the universe is far more interesting when you have friends to explore it with. That is all we want, just friendship. Oran looked around at his officers. He saw the fear slowly leaving their faces. He saw confusion turning to curiosity. He saw military minds beginning to consider possibilities that did not involve war. "I will need to consult with my government," he said. "Of course, take all the time you need. We are patient people, Admiral. We have been watching your empire for 30 years. We can wait a little longer for your answer." The communication ended. The quiet dawn remained motionless in space, a ghost ship that could destroy worlds but chose to offer peace instead. Admiral Oran made a decision. "Open a channel to the High Council," he ordered. "Tell them I recommend immediate negotiations with the humans. Tell them I believe their offer of friendship is genuine." His officers looked surprised. "Admiral, are you certain?" Oran watched the human ship floating in the darkness, silent, patient, powerful beyond imagination, yet offering only an open hand. "No," he admitted. "I am not certain, but I am hopeful, and sometimes hope is enough to begin." 6 months had passed since the ghost ship first appeared in space. In that time, everything had changed. The empire that had ruled 300 star systems for 12,000 years found itself learning to see the universe in a completely new way. Ambassador Eth stood on the observation deck of Harbor Point, a space station that had been built in neutral territory. It was a joint project between the Empire and the Terran Confederation, a place where two civilizations could meet and talk without weapons or suspicion. The station orbited a small moon far from any inhabited world, a symbol of the trust that was slowly growing between them. Beside stood Captain Lisa Moore. She had been promoted after her successful first contact mission. Her superiors said she had handled the most important diplomatic event in human history with skill and grace. Lisa just said she had been lucky to meet reasonable people. The two of them looked out at the stars together. In the 6 months since they had met, they had spent hundreds of hours in conversation, had learned about Earth, its blue oceans and green forests, its crowded cities and quiet villages. Lisa had learned about its crystal mountains and ancient temples, its traditions that stretch back to the beginning of recorded history. They had become something like friends. "Your people are still afraid of us," Lisa said quietly. It was not an accusation, just an observation. "Can you blame them?" replied. "You appeared from nowhere with technology we thought was impossible. You showed us that our defenses were useless, that our weapons meant nothing. You could destroy us whenever you choose. So could your empire. They have that power and have had it for. Turn to look at the human. Yes, but we built our power slowly over thousands of years. Each advancement came step by step, giving us time to adjust. Your species rose so quickly. A few centuries ago, you had not even left your planet. Now you have abilities that make our greatest achievements look primitive." Lisa nodded. "I understand why that frightens people. Sudden change is always scary, even when it brings good things." They were quiet for a moment. Outside the viewport, a transport ship glided into the station's docking bay. It was followed by a human cargo vessel, the two ships passing within meters of each other without any sign of tension. 6 months ago, such a sight would have been unthinkable. "I want to tell you something," Lisa said. "Something that might help your council understand us better." "I am listening." Humanity has seen what happens when power is used for domination. We have seen it in our own history on our own world. There were times when we nearly destroyed ourselves. Wars that killed millions. Leaders who built empires on the bones of the innocent. Weapons that could have ended all life on Earth. Her voice grew softer. "We came very close to extinction, Ambassador. Not once, but several times. Each time, we survived only because enough people chose cooperation over conflict. Enough people decided that being right was less important than being alive." Watched the human's face. She had learned to read human expressions over the past months. She saw old pain in Lisa's eyes, memories of a history that still haunted her species. When we developed slipstream technology, Lisa continued, it was the most powerful discovery in human history. We could go anywhere, do anything, destroy anyone who opposed us. Some people wanted to use it for conquest. They said it was our destiny to rule the galaxy. What happened to them? They lost the argument, not through violence but through persuasion. The majority of humanity decided that we had been given a second chance, a chance to be better than we had been, a chance to explore the universe without repeating the mistakes of our past. She turned to face directly. Every time one of our ships slips through space, it is a reminder of that choice. We learn to work with the universe instead of forcing our will upon it, and we intend to treat other species the same way. Thought about this for a long moment. They had always believed that power was meant to be used. The strong ruled the weak. That was the natural order. But here was a species that had achieved ultimate power and then chosen not to use it. The High Council has reached a decision, said finally. They have authorized me to begin formal treaty negotiations, trade agreements, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, perhaps in time military partnership. Lisa smiled. It was a warm expression that transformed her face. We would like that very much. But I have one request, continued. A personal one, not an official one. Name it. Teach us, not just your technology, but your philosophy, how you learn to see the universe as a partner rather than a conquest. My people have ruled this sector for 12,000 years, but I am beginning to think we still have much to learn. Lisa reached out and took Claude's hand in her soft human fingers. It was an intimate gesture, the kind of touch that spoke of trust between friends. We would be honored, Ambassador, and I promise you this. Humanity will never use its power against your people, not because we cannot, but because we choose not to. That choice is renewed every day, with every ship we send out and every world we visit. Below them, the station bustled with activity, and humans walked side by side through the corridors. Scientists from both species shared data in research labs. Diplomats argued and negotiated and slowly built the framework for a new relationship. It was not perfect. There were still those on both sides who did not trust the other. There were still fears and suspicions and old habits that were hard to break, but it was a beginning. You know, said, when your ship first appeared on our sensors, Admiral Iran said it moved like a ghost, a shadow that glided through our space without leaving any trace. And now, Lisa asked. Now I think he was wrong. Ghosts are things from the past, spirits of the dead. But you are not from the past, Captain. You are from the future, a future we never imagined was possible. Lisa squeezed her hand gently. Then let us build that future together, Ambassador. Let us show the galaxy what happens when two civilizations choose friendship over fear. Looked out at the stars. They seemed brighter now than they had 6 months ago, less threatening and more inviting, like doorways to adventures she had never considered. Yes, she said quietly, let us show them indeed. The ghost ship had arrived bringing fear and uncertainty, but it had also brought something else, a gift more valuable than any weapon or technology. It had brought the possibility of change. The empire had stood unchanged for 12,000 years. Its people had believed they knew everything there was to know about power and strength and civilization. They had been wrong. And as watched the stars with her new human friend beside her, she realized that being wrong was not always a bad thing. Sometimes, being wrong was the first step toward becoming right. The universe was vast and ancient and full of wonders they had never seen. It had taken a ghost ship to remind them of that, a shadow that became a light, an unknown vessel that became a bridge between worlds. And somewhere out in the darkness, other ghost ships glided through space, silent, patient, watching for the next civilization to meet. the next friendship to begin, the next chapter in the great story of exploration and discovery that humanity had chosen to write. The story was just beginning, and for the first time in 12,000 years, they were excited to see what happened next.